Hello there, Internet. Welcome to another episode of Weekly Art Tips. I'm your host, Ando, and this week we are going to finish off our 3-video series of book binding techniques. We're going to learn how to use the Japanese stab binding technique. So let's dive right in. This book cannot lay flat at all, but it does look very elegant. So let's get started. So after you fold up all of your papers, instead of making them into signatures, you're going to end up having them in a stack of single folded pages. So after you've folded all of your pages, just put those aside for now. And I went and grabbed some really pretty cherry blossom paper for my cover. What you're going to do is fold those in half, and then take 2 pieces of cardboard that you trim down for the cover. Make sure it is not the same width as your pages. Leave a good amount of space because you cannot do the binding through the hard cover. So take the 2 cardboard pieces and add adhesive to one side. Take that off and securely align it with the fold that you made in your cover paper. So after making sure that that's nice and tight and there's no bubbles, you're going to end up adding adhesive to the front side. And you're going to take the backing off. Before you fold over the other side of the paper, however, you're going to trim down the fold on either side of the cardboard and then trim off excess paper so that there's just a small amount on either side of the cardboard. Then you're going to fold that up like you did with the first book. And instead of folding the back in, you're just going to fold those 2 sides. You're going to leave the back there so that you can create the hinge for your book. Next, you're going to add adhesive to the parts that you folded over. And then finally, you're going to take the excess paper on the other side and fold that all the way over on the new adhesive so that way it's nice and sticky together. Make sure that it's nice and secure, and then trim off the extra pieces on either side of the cover. After that, make sure that it's nice and flat on either side, and make sure that the paper on the edges are very secure. So after that, your hands will probably be incredibly sticky, so go wash your hands and clean up. After that, you'll have 2 lovely sides for your cover. It's going to be 2 pieces of cardboard, and then you're going to have the more papery side on the ends. Now you're going to take your pages for the inside of the book. Take another piece of cardboard, this time with 4 evenly spaced holes. And once again, you're going to end up stabbing through the ends of the paper. Make sure that the side of the paper that you're stabbing isn't the folded side, but the flat side. You're going to want to keep the folded side outward, unless of course you don't want to have a folded side at all, in which case you can trim down all of your page sizes so that it is completely even and open on either side. After you have it all stabbed through, go ahead and trim down the excess paper on your covers so that way it is the same size as your papers. So once you have all of your pages lined up, add the top and bottom cover and then open it up to the middle of the book. This is where you're going to start sewing. So choose one of the middle punctures to begin your stitch and pull it through 1/2 of the book. Once you get to the end of the cover, make sure to leave a tail and then grab your needle and then go through the other cover and the other half of your pages. And it will probably immediately become a huge mess. So after you straighten that up again, go ahead and sew all the way back again and continue through the first hole, and instead of it being 2 halves that are kind of held together with thread after you tighten it, it should bring the book together nice and tight. So make sure that you end with your thread on the cover side instead of in the middle. So after you have that first stitch made, you're going to go back in again. You're going to notice that the stitch is going to be on the outside looped around the cover. That is exactly what you want. So you're going to go back in through that hole again and make sure that you have a double thread on that first stitch. Next, you're going to go across the cover to the outermost puncture and push that all the way through and make that nice and tight, and you will have your second stitch. Next, grab your thread and then going over the short side of the binding again, you're going to pull it tight so that it will look just like your first stitch. Pull that nice and tight, and then you're going to go all the way around the outside of the cover and then push it back through that outermost puncture and pull that nice and tight. So you're going to do that second top stitch again, and then you're going to do the outermost stitch again as well. After you finish up with that end, you're going to take that thread and then go back into the second puncture again, and then pull it out, go back into the first puncture, and then back through the second puncture again. So that is going to be the end of that half of the book. Next, you're going to end up going to the second middle puncture, pull that through, and then continue the process like you did on the other half, and eventually your book will look like this. After you've finished all of that, tie off the book by taking the thread, finding the middle area where you started your stitch, and then poke the needle right through and tie off the ends. And that is the Japanese stab binding. It looks very lovely. So that's going to conclude our 3-book sewing series. I hope you'll join us again next week. Next week's going to only be one video though, because I'm going to be out of town. So, until then, see you guys next time. Bye-bye!